Okay, so as promised in this video of What If, I'm going to get into the importance of why, when you're practicing flow, within Warrior Flow, why you got to do it a certain way. So the biggest thing that you always get with people, especially, when people are asking martial arts, how would you deal with this, how you would deal with that, is once you're at the range where you are going to make contact. I mean, without contact, there's no fight. I don't care what anyone says. So one of the things that we do is we practice what we call the sensory flow exercise. And the reason we do this is the purpose of this exercise is not to sit here and gaze at our navels and look cool. It's to train ourselves on a neurological level to recognize the pattern in another person's movement, right? All human movement has a pattern to it. All means all. When I move my arm, this is a pattern. When I move my hand around, this is a pattern. And so we're teaching each other to recognize the patterns in another person's motion so that we get used to it and it becomes an embodied cognition or embodied perception, so that when we got to go off on someone, the last thing we're thinking about is 5,000 different techniques. This is one of the weaknesses I see in a lot of martial arts training, especially self-defense training, where everything is all, a guy grabs you here and then you do some technique or whatever. And there's nothing wrong, by the way, there's nothing wrong with technique. You got to have technique. Bruce Lee had a great saying about technique, and that is, and I'm just paraphrasing what he said in one of his movies, that, whatever, it doesn't matter where it comes from. If it works for you, then it's good. And so I like that idea. So here's the deal though. When I'm moving with people, as I feel where they are relative to my body, I use the concept that Grandmaster Perkins talked about, and I love this concept, and that is listening to another person's body. The reason is, within here, there's like a million little micro adjustments and movements when you're dealing with another human being. One of the reasons why the grappling arts are effective at close range is because you can actually feel what the other person is doing. Where the weakness is number one, most of them are taught in a sportive manner. I'm sorry, that's the reality. Number two, people are looking to use some type of technique or combination, and because they're basically training in the sport, they're overlooking the obvious. What is the obvious? Okay, so I'm at the, what people would call the grappling or clinching range. I'm not doing this. I'm doing this. Right? Why? Because your head is still your head. But more importantly, if I'm in here, I have every intention of snapping your head back like the Pez dispenser, right? So when I'm doing the flow, what I'm doing is I'm training myself to recognize the pattern in another person's motion. I'm also training myself to be unavailable to whatever the heck they're doing. I'm trying to evade, yet I'm trying to strike. I do not try to get too caught up into trying to control people through grappling, only because it just slows me down. However, if you're stupid enough to let me catch your arm in your hand, I have every intention of tearing your arm from the socket. So the big difference in what we do in Warrior Flow is, if we do grab you, we have every intention of breaking things and tearing things. And this is a big difference. I'm not tapping anybody out. Sorry. So if I have to deal with someone on the way in, for whatever reason, my hands are up, maybe I might even be in the, what Grandmaster Perkins used to call the Jack Benny stance. However my hands are, when I go, I'm gonna go. And I'm going with everything. Pushing from the root, and I have every intention of cutting them physically in half. I think one of the things, and I think I said it in one of my other videos, that really messes people up is they learn technique, they learn how to strike, which is good. They learn how to grapple, which is good, control. But what's missing is the ruthless intention to execute, if necessary, and even send people to the afterlife. It's a crazy thing, but like in the military, we have no problem talking about smoking people off the planet. I mean, I'm sorry, we ain't building nuclear weapons or large weapons or guns, to control people. Trust me, if you've ever seen what, the aftermath of a 155 shell does to a person, I'm telling you that it turns people into hamburger. Not a positive experience for you if you're the guy getting hit with one of those shells, right? So no one has a problem with that idea. No one has a problem understanding, as I've said in other videos, that like Smith & Wesson, Colt, Taurus guns, all these guys make, Beretta, they make guns, the 6 Sauer, all these different handguns. No one believes that a handgun is designed for you to go hunting deer or hunting bear with, right? Because you're hunting bear with a handgun, you ain't coming back from it, right? But yet when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, when it comes to personal self-defense, the idea of maybe taking somebody off the planet with your hands, all of a sudden people act like you can't talk about it. It's ridiculous. It's like, well, no, if you do that, you can get in trouble, as opposed to like shooting somebody. And so what it really comes down to is many people in this space, from my observation, they really don't understand, because they've never really trained to it, this idea that if you have to fight for your life, you may have to kill the other person. And you shouldn't have any ambiguity in your mind about that. You know, again, somebody breaks in your house and you have a handgun or you have a gun and they're threatening your family, you're going to do what you got to do. And you should think of it no different than with your hands. But for whatever reason, there's like this mental block, this phobia that people have of talking about, you know, there's nothing pleasant about taking your hand and driving it through somebody's neck and crushing their windpipe. And if you're not smart enough to understand how effective, but also how dangerous that is, then, you know, you're probably not adult enough really to be getting into situations in the first place. So in Warrior Flow, when we have to enter on people, whatever we're going to do, whatever technique we're going to use, whatever that is, technique to us is just a thing. The reason is we enter with every intention of taking people off the planet and ending the fight right there. I'm not getting into these long, drawn-out, you know, contests, these, you know, protracted battles, if I can. You know, I know there are people, you know, they'll say, well, you know, you want to be in good shape so you can, like, you know, so you don't gas out. And that's all well and good, but I'm not trying to get into a, you know, boxing or kickboxing match with people. If I got to fight, you know, somebody wants to, like, you know, put their hands up like they want a duel. Okay, this is a duel. We've already agreed to something, which is not really how most realistic self-defense situations go down. Usually it's Tukey and Ray rolling up on somebody like this, and if you're not recognizing that it's on, you're already in trouble. And so what it is if I have to go, whatever I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go. I'm not playing games with people. And so in Warrior Flow, whenever we're entering on people, we use simple techniques. As I'm throwing a strike, I'll throw it with the other hand so you can see. As I'm throwing a strike, I'm gonna bring your hands up. Let's say he blocks it. You know, because that's what I expect people to do. But at least now I know where he is, and I'll just clear it and hit him anyway. I don't care. See, for us, a person sticking their arm out to block our arm is every bit as much a target as their head. We don't care. I have every intention of breaking your arm. I don't care. Why? Because breaking your arm is incidental to what's going to happen to you when I get past your arm. We don't try to control people for the sake of control. I only deal with people's hands because I have to. But I deal with them by exception. But if I can get past your hands and get the drop on you if I have to, before you get your hands up, that's not my problem. You know, maybe you should have trained in my school, I don't know. So as I'm moving and doing whatever I got to do, and this is all a demonstration speech, so nobody gets hurt here, because I'm not trying to get killed in my own video, right? And so as we are doing this stuff, we're also training ourselves, you know, within reason, you know, to know what it's like to also get hit and deal with another person when you're clashing, so that the first time, and I do this, and right there, he just blocked my hand, you know, my palm strike with his arm and with his elbow. It hurt a little bit, but it's not the first time I've ever experienced that. And so if it's a real situation and this happens, oh, okay, yeah, ow, that hurt. You know what? Here, take that. You know, and it's just a dog fight. You know, Grandmaster Perkins used to have a great expression. You know, he says, you know, and he would say things like, this is actually a funny demo he did. He says, you know, a sport fight looks like this, you know, or it's like this, or, you know, if you're doing something like this, you know, that looks all good. He said, but a real fight, he would take his hands, a real fight is like this. It's a dog fight. And so for me, it's a dog fight. And if you've ever seen, you know, a dog fight, or, you know, or a chicken fight or a cock fight, you know what I'm talking about. It's not control, it's like this. So as we're moving, and I feel my way through, that's the key. I can feel what he's doing, therefore I don't have to guess. And when I start clearing things, I just go off on people. And I train myself to do that. I'll probably do a video later on how you can practice that kind of stuff. But I just wanted to like put this out there to kind of show you, to get your mind moving in the right places. I continue to build on the what if stuff, but I realized before I start showing some other technique oriented stuff, I really need to start showing people and kind of getting people's minds, focused on the reality, because real situations, people just go off onto each other and you have to train yourself to that reality. So hopefully this starts enlightening some folks, and I'm going to, like I said, build on this, and then I'll get into other different types of things, going to the ground, all that good stuff.